Hiya, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome back to Style Over Substance. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. Lockdown has gone by the
Well,
time this airs.
well,
Well, I think officially that's the end of lockdown.
okay. I don't know how we're measuring
I
this.
well, I think if you're able to go to restaurants and stuff like that, I guess the lockdown lifts.
I suppose so. Yeah, in a way.
Like,
But there'll still be like restrictions and stuff. But
of course, but like the initiative of just stay at home becomes like stay near home or something.
stay somewhere, but stay.
Don't go too far.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's promising, and yeah.
Good vibes. We've had some bright weather. Today was quite a nice vibe, but then it started to snow randomly.
Yeah.
So that was all over the shop, to be honest.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I'm all right. I'm knackered. I just made some quesadillas just to like tide me over, and I'm just chilling with my beer.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. Well, I think we have to address that Prince Phil.
Oh.
So for our listeners as well, Prince Phil died on my birthday.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, the royal family seem to love my birthday. It's a bit much. And I saw a really funny TikTok of this guy being like, Princess Diana did her work. Because basically my birthday is also Prince Charles and Camilla's wedding anniversary. So for like his dad to die on his wedding anniversary, it was kind of like, oh, is that Diana striking?
I'm going to dampen your day, Charles. I'm going to get the last word out of this. Yeah.
But yeah, so Prince Phil has sadly passed away. And I've read a really interesting thing that was like, I love the royal family, but I'm also not that bothered. He's an old dude. Like, he had a really good innings. Like, he should be really proud of that. But it was something like, it takes quite a strong man to have taken second place at a time that he did, when that wasn't normal for a man to do that. And I actually thought that was a really nice sort of like way to think of it.
Yeah.
That is quite cool.
I agree with you. Like, I am not a fan of the royal family. I'm pretty sure we've discussed this, but I like to watch them like as a reality TV show.
Yeah,
to me, there's still drama and characters involved and stuff. So I could chat shit all day about the royal family, to be honest, and also Philip. He is not exempt from criticism. But yeah, you're right. At a time when they got married in the late 40s, and the Queen never gave him the title of king. She was always his consort and always a prince. Yeah. And for him to be like, I mean, he cheated a lot and that's no secret, but for him to really let her shine for 73 years of marriage is a feat in itself. And then I was thinking on the day that he passed, I think it was Magic, and they were playing, of course, like the saddest of tunes.
Of course.
Ballads. They were absolute bangers. But I was thinking to myself, like, I could not imagine having been married to someone that long and then for them to die. How do I continue my life without them? I do not know anything but life with this person. You don't know your parents that long.
No.
Quite frankly.
I think that's why so many sort of oldies and goldies die from broken hearts or quite close afterwards, especially like the generation that they're from, where you do marry young. And also, like, obviously not the case with Liz and Phil, but like that's also an age group where like the men did everything. So if the man dies, like the woman's kind of like, I don't know how to pay my bills, like I don't know, and vice versa, that the men can't cook or like whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, she's lucky she doesn't have to like.
She doesn't have those problems.
Widow's pension, universal credit. She's all right.
Doesn't have to take out the life insurance claim.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
But still, like going through life and just having that sort of regular person in your life, you're right, you don't know many people for that long, and of course like you can have friendships that long, but
it's not the same.
Not living day in day out with that person and like I don't know if they got separate bedrooms or not, but like going to bed without like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So thoughts with Queenie.
Yeah.
I hope she's all right.
So let's get into fashion stories. What's yours?
Yeah. So my fashion story is hairdressers are open by the time this airs.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always been like quite a lot of talk of like once hairdressers are open after this sort of like hopefully the final time we're locked up, that like they reckon it's the rise of the bob, or like basically more high maintenance hairstyles.
More high maintenance.
Yeah.
Oh, you know,
because you haven't been able to. Your hair's grown out, your blonde roots. That people are going to be like, blonde me, bob me. Let's look like slick and clean.
Yeah, there is there has been talk of how like after the last financial crash we had, really incredible high heels became like in vogue again. I mean, remember like Louboutins were like the shoe to buy, and they were incredibly high.
Yeah.
And it's like after a time of economic downturn, people kind of want to come out more decadent, I guess.
Rise from the ashes, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was going to ask you if that was something that you thought like is going to be the case, because I guess a lot of people are used to the more low maintenance life. But also like what's the thing you're rushing, like what's your thing you're rushing to sort of like maybe that's a bit more high maintenance?
I think I want to get my nails done. I mean, you can see my nails now, they're pretty bad. Chip nail polish, which is not normally something I like. That's not
normally something that's on your fingers ever.
Yeah, but I do want to get acrylics back. I have so many images.
I'm an extension girl, like
and I know I won't really be able to type or do my job very well.
But that's fine. You get used to it though. When I get them off, I realise how much easier typing is.
Yeah, exactly.
And fewer mistakes I make. But we live for
life is for enjoyment and not necessarily practicalities, isn't it?
So do you reckon like long nails will be a thing, or like?
Yeah, I think that definitely long nails was massive before
with the Kardashians. Like
Khloe. And in general, like everyone was getting their nails done, and this period of not being able to, I think everyone is rushing and booking appointments. So I definitely think people have also, as we've talked about before, people have also been buying fashion throughout lockdowns. Plural, and they're waiting to like don their new outfits. So yeah, I do think decadence is, and like exuberance and high fashion and luxury and all of that, people are they're itching to like use.
I think we'll see sort of like, it might take a little while, but I think people, once they feel like rest assured that we're out for good, I think we'll see some like real glam, some real like,
Can't wait.
I'm excited. What is your fashion story?
Okay, so we did talk about this show, but I think I'm the last person on earth to actually watch it now, and it's yeah, I'm watching it. First off, I want to say it's incredibly easy to just watch episode after episode after episode, because they're shorter than most. They're like half an hour as opposed to like the 45-hour episode that we're used to seeing. Anyway, yeah, I started watching it yesterday or day before, something like in the past few days. And okay, besides making French people seem sexist, disgusting, like all these terrible stereotypes and these really cheap jokes about eggplant as opposed to aubergine and college and university and all this like really low-hanging fruit when it comes to comedy. I have been enjoying watching the looks. I don't know, I have enjoyed it, and I was like critiquing it in my mind as I watch, because the story plot is very basic. Some jokes did make me laugh, but like I've come to realize that none of this show is about realism. It's just not. Like you have to throw that out of the window and get past.
it's trying to live out what the girl's fantasy is
Yeah.
of moving to
Yeah.
Paris.
That's exactly what it is. And if it means a new Chanel bag every day, so be it.
Yeah.
And I'm here for the ride.
Which is what it does mean, apparently.
Yeah. So that's my fashion story. And yeah, I'm the last person on earth to be watching it, but I will say I have been enjoying it for what it is. Once you come to terms with the fashion and how it adds to Emily's kind of naivety in a way, but also her amazing luck, because the whole story is filled with how everything kind of slots in
falls
place.
Into place, yeah.
Yeah. Then you can see how the fashion mirrors that, and you can see how she has this amazing wardrobe, new clothes every day, but she lives in the tiniest apartment. None of it makes sense. Throw logic out the window, guys, if you haven't yet seen it. But yeah, has your opinion changed about Emily in Paris since watching it? Because I haven't actually finished watching it.
I mean, I think we've mentioned it before. It definitely doesn't deserve a BAFTA or Golden Globe or whatever it had.
No.
But no, you know what? I think it's really fun. I think it's lighthearted. I also have been watching for a few years a show that's just come out on Netflix, but it used to be on Amazon Prime, other retailers or other platforms available. The Bold Type. It's corny, It's cringy, it's ironically the magazine is called Scarlett, but our mutual friend Faith recommended it to me, and we both like quite similar corny shows. It's very American, but like it's got fun fashion. It's sort of a bit gossip girly, in terms of like girls that are dressed up trotting around New York in heels type thing. They work for a fashion magazine, and that gives me the same sort of pleasure of like watching people. And it is actually like, it's aspirational. It's what we talked about with Sex and the City. It's aspirational. It makes me think I would love to be like that one day. And even though they're probably younger than me now, like it's that thing of, that is my aspiration, to be like some dolled up person working.
I mean, I did turn to Mr. Big today and I was like, I think we should move to France and buy a derelict chateau. Like, honestly, let's do it. Let's just,
there you go. That's that,
like the countryside
marketing or whatever it is.
It's working on me, honestly. So should we get into the episode that we have this week?
We shall. We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do.
So should I introduce it or do you want to? Okay. Well, first of all, thanks to everyone who's actually like responded to our polls this week and last week. We see all of them and we try to respond to all of them as well. One poll that we had out this week was, how do you go about saving or affording luxury fashion? Because we've kind of touched on in previous episodes how it's so easy to be desensitized when it comes to the pricing of these luxury goods. We're just bombarded with Louis Vuitton all the time, quite frankly. And we forget how much this stuff actually costs and how much people are out there spending. And so this episode is really about, how can we save for luxury fashion? Why do we need to be saving and spending a lot of money on luxury fashion? Should we? And ways to go about it that we think are maybe more responsible, or ways in which that others have been doing so. And a couple of you have actually responded with how you go about doing it. So that's been quite cool. So yeah, Scarlett, what do you think?
Yeah, so this is something that sort of is a real dilemma that I constantly feel kind of confronted by, that naturally, because of working in fashion and being around it and being a lover and admirer of fashion, I can't help but lust after like things with a luxury price tag. And then you sort of start thinking, I could do that. I could just put that like some money aside every month and like, I could buy those. And then you kind of get to the point of like, who do I think I am? I would never spend that on anything. Why would I spend £600 on a pair of shoes? I haven't even spent that on like the telly that I own. Like, why would I spend that on one item that's naturally going to get scuffed, blah, blah, blah. And I get like, I think we do get desensitized of like, I would never buy that. I would never just fork that out. So like, because of our oversaturation of Instagram, like watching fashion shows, seeing all these people, and to be honest, I would say 80% of the people I follow are in a different tax bracket to me. So like, that's a big thing as well. So yeah, I have a real conundrum with it. But then I also think if that's your jam, and if you are actually financially responsible, you're not getting yourself into debt doing it, or like having some really serious money problems from doing it, then how you spend your money is also your choice. And there's a reason that these brands are still going. And like, it's such a weird one. I think it's more like the unfortunate thing is probably I'm not quite there yet. To be spending it on it or justifying that. But if I did have the money, I think we said it before, like I would have no problem dropping money. If that was in my price range, I would be shopping luxury nonstop.
So what to you is an irresponsible line? Where's that irresponsibility sit with you when it comes to buying luxury fashion? Because it's very easy for us to say, when I have money in this distant imaginary future, I will be dropping what, 1,000, 2,000 a bag? Or are we going to go MS and say 8, 9, 10 grand on the bag, for example? And how much do you think you should be earning in order to warrant those sort of expenses?
That's a really good question. I saw something, I think it might even be Molly May, who's like from Love Island or whatever, because she gets confronted quite a lot from like the things that she owns and the fact that she's always buying new stuff.
Oh, really?
But also like, I think people don't realize how much money you make being on social media. Like I just, like we mentioned it before with like YouTubers in another episode, like I just don't think people realize the level of money in that. Like we understand that Kardashians can get like hundreds of thousands of pounds from a post, but like Instagrammers can be earning like 10 grand from like campaigns, or like a couple of grand, but they're doing it a couple times like a week, or you know, like that adds up on top of their existing revenue. And she said something that I thought was a really great way and maybe really good advice, that she never buys something unless she can afford it 3 times.
I've heard this philosophy, actually, not from her, but
and it won't be hers. It won't be hers. Someone will have told it to her, or she'll have heard it somewhere. And I think that's a really good starting point, that like it shouldn't leave your bank account empty, or like you'll say, it shouldn't drain your entire savings account. I genuinely think that that's a really great philosophy. But also for me, I think I catch myself being like, well, the main places I shop are places like ASOS and Zara, Sorry Planet, like Topshop before it went under, like different places, and here and there other places and all of that stuff. But like, I don't really spend past a certain point on my like individual items. So what makes just suddenly me like justify that? And I think that's when I catch myself of like, but you don't spend that on anything. So you can't like suddenly like think that that's acceptable to own. And then also lots of people that I'm amongst don't have those items. So I think it kind of brings me back to earth of, there are like, you know, like my sisters-in-law and stuff like that, like they control themselves to not buy things like that because there's other things to buy, and it's a bit obscene. How about you?
Oh, I don't know. So I've never bought something brand new
No,
luxury except, and
at work.
we'll probably get into this later, except from where I worked at the time. And even then it was a discount.
Yeah.
I have mentioned previously before that I have my eye on getting a brand new like designer bag, and I've kind of have in my mind a ballpark idea of what I'm willing to spend. And I've been like so I have been selling some of the other stuff that I have, other bags that I have. I'll go into depth with it more later, but I've in my mind, my plan is to sell stuff that I don't use that often and kind of put that in the kitty towards a more expensive, lavish purchase, but at least it's something I'm planning to use a lot and I didn't have to fork out the total amount all at once. I was trying to be as pragmatic as possible. But even with that, I'm thinking to myself, say I actually have the money. Can I part?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, most designer bags range between £1,500 and like 2.5 grand, let's say. Yeah. Could I really?
And even secondhand, if that's the path you would go down,
Yeah.
you don't want to look to be spending much less than like 1,000 because then there's a question of authenticity, the niceness, like
the condition,
like the condition it's in, all of like, yeah.
Think of that, but yeah. So I don't know if when it comes to it, I can actually part with that money because I have not really spent that kind of money on anything else before. I mean, other than like rent, and that's over like a period of time. So yeah, that threshold is quite interesting and quite difficult.
But I think sometimes a way to quantify it, because I've been probably nearly 2 years now, I've been lusting after the be embroidered Gucci loafers. Like, I love them. I know I'd wear them. I would wear them to work. I would wear them in normal life. I love them. And I've loved them consistently for those 2 years and wanted them.
Yeah.
And like, in no time have I let myself get them, even though £600 is relatively, like, I could have put away like 20 quid a month and like be getting, well, not that, like
£50 a month or something,
like to be getting there. And like it's a totally achievable thing, especially over like 2 years. It's like it's a constant thing that they have, I think. And I just haven't let myself. And then I'm like, but I've wanted them for long enough. It's not a rash decision. It's something that I know that like the amount of times like, yeah, I could have worn them now. I could have worn them here.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff. And it's just like one of my fears is it might unlock a desire to do it more often, I think, as well.
Oh yeah, it's like
addictive.
Pandora's
It's
box.
addictive.
Yeah, because like, don't get us wrong, listeners, we aren't like the beacons of fiscal responsibility.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying I'm like just because I don't buy like designer goods doesn't mean I'm like doing the best that I could be doing. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I waste my money other ways, don't worry.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that. So yeah, it is interesting, and there is a line. And I have seen also on YouTube with a few people that I have been like kind of following for a while, and there's this as you've mentioned with Molly May, and people kind of questioning why is she spending this much money and how is she spending that much money. I think in certain like communities and whatever, I've seen like a few like black YouTubers be questioned about spending money on luxury, because for a lot of people in certain communities, if you don't see it, then you almost like grow up with this belief that certain people don't deserve certain things, which of course is not the case at all.
No,
like,
and especially like that needs to be eradicated.
Yeah, like, but it's only when you know, it depends on what the person
you need
sees
to
at home
see the
as well.
representation, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And like your own lives and stuff. So that can really, as you say, stop you from buying into something because maybe you don't think you deserve it, or you just physically cannot part with that money.
Yeah, and actually saying that, I saw a girl with one of the Dior totes, and
The
it was
book, like the book
tote. Yeah. Just queuing for Waitrose. She looked really young. I live in a super affluent area, by the way. Like, not that I am, but like my flat is based in a super affluent area. So like that's not to be unexpected that like an 18-year-old would be carrying that bag. And it made me think like, I love that bag. I actually don't like the original design, but I do like some of like the more like limited edition or like the different colorways.
Oh yeah.
I just think it could be a great beach bag, just a great like whatever. I think they're great. I think that they have become maybe a little bit timeless, and I think in 20 years I think it would still be a really great like piece. And I was like, I really want one of those. As soon as I got home, I was like, I really want one of those. Okay, I'm going to see how much they are and like blah, blah, blah. Like, I should get myself one. And then I suddenly got hit with, who do I think I am to turn up at like my family home in front of like everybody and justify that I've just spent like $2,500 on a canvas tote bag, but like I don't own my own property, or like I have that sort of like responsibility of like none of them have those sorts of belongings. So who do I think I am to be like reckless Nelly, like going and getting that?
And at a time where like for our generation, for those who are new, like we're millennials, you know, you're born in like the early 90s. And, you know, it's not even just for our generation, but I'm using it as just an example. When you look at like the average UK wages, it's like 30 grand. It's not that high. And for people who live outside the UK, 30k is not a lot of money. And
not for it to be the average. Considering where, especially like I genuinely asked my dad about that the other day, because where I live, you see all these personalized number plates, everyone's got a Range Rover or nicer, and I was like, but the average living wage, or like the average wage is 30. So who is that far under to counteract this?
Because it's like an average.
I could think
it's not even a median, it's an average. Like, so you've got like, everyone knows the UK is quite wealthy, and so you have like people who like work in the city are driving that average upwards, so it's lower than 30k a year. But anyway, we digress. Like, and you see like people of our generation who, because of that low average earnings, is like you can't afford to buy a house. Even if you team up with someone else who's still earning 30k, you cannot afford to buy a house. And it's seen as like those are more quote unquote responsible purchases, or even like buying a car because you need it for work, or buying a house because you need it to live and it's an investment, or just anything else. Buying like, I mean, food. Like, you know, like those day-to-day purchases are as better ways to put your money. So then
or even just for your rainy day fund.
Exactly.
You know, like it's just that thing of like, it's hard to justify. But also I think we millennials might be like the last generation of like growing up thinking that you have to own a house, because I think that actually in other nations, like in Japan, nobody owns a house, everybody rents.
Same with even like in Spain, it's more common to just rent.
And in the US as well, there's way more renters than there are house owners and stuff like that. So I don't know but I know also after this whole pandemic, I know they want to try and help and enable as many people as they can to own homes if they want to. But I think sometimes a lot of like Gen Z, even millennials, have kind of given up on like, they would be able to afford a mortgage, but they can't afford that down payment. I mean, if you even got a £250,000 house, good luck finding that around here.
But you still need like 30k.
You still need 50 grand. Like, if you want a 20% deposit, that's 50 grand. Who's got that lying around?
I think that's such a good point, because
and at a young age, if you haven't been taught money, we went to a nice school and we didn't really get taught loads about finances. We were lucky our form tutor did a bit, but like,
it's really from your parents, isn't it?
I think it's hard to like have instilled when you're young, if you are even earning well, to put money aside to to save that. There's that, like, it's like classic footballers. They run off and quickly like spend loads of money, and I think it's a tough one.
I think there's a correlation there because, as you said, like, if you know you can never really afford a deposit, and let's face it, as house prices increase, you're there saving, beavering away, saving your little coins, and the price of the house is ever increasing.
Up.
You're never really gonna reach, like, by yourself at least. You're never really gonna reach it. So
and then it relies on, if you're single and you meet somebody that they've also been borrowing away and have a big pot, or like, if they don't, it's still then on you. It's
and then so as like people are becoming, I guess, like disillusioned with that whole idea. Okay, $2,000 for a bag is a lot of money, but it's like,
but if you're not trying to save up for a house, then like the money that you're putting aside each month, saving and all of that stuff, there's loads of great TikTokers and YouTubers, if people want to understand more about how you should try and save your paycheck. I say should because I need to take that advice sometimes. But like, that then doesn't have to go into like your house deposit pot or whatever, and could be your luxury or whatever your jam is. If it's having your house decked out with speakers and amazing music and a vinyl like collection that's to die for, like, that's expensive too. Like, if you add things like that up, if you're a skincare junkie, put your hand up. I've got my hand up. Like, you know, stuff like that things add up, you know, makeup, like even just shoes. Like, you love trainers, Mim. Like, I bet if you added up what your trainers are worth.
I don't have a lot of trainers, but
do you not?
No, I don't actually. I have more like regular shoes than I'm like.
But you know, it's if you added things up, you'd be like, okay, and actually realistically you probably only wear like 3 or 4 pairs of shoes most. So then if you just spend that on those,
I know. I will say that, like, on the grounds of should we be saving for luxury fashion, I think like the discipline of saving for something that is
a good discipline to have.
Like, it's good to kind of take your time, put money aside for that purchase so that you know you can definitely afford it and you're not going to be on beans and toast for the rest of the month. And also it gets you training your brain to believe, like, I definitely want this, and in a year's time or 6 months or 4 months, however long it takes you to save for that item, it's because you thought about it and it was intentional, and it wasn't a shopping luxury fashion haul or anything, as we are so often led to believe is like normal. It's not.
And also like that way you can't sort of like drunk buy it, or like when you're having a bad day, click purchase, because why not? Like, there's more responsibility attached. And I actually think that even if you are blessed with finances, I actually think whether you have to take time to save, I actually think that you should give yourself, like, at the very least a month to really pause, think about it. That's what I often do with things. If, like, you know, you can get really carried away if you're on online shopping and you can think, I want that. And then if you actually just take time and, like, that's why I love the saved section in ASOS. You see all these things you saved, and then you realize, I don't need that, or I don't need this, but actually I'm still thinking about this one item. So that means something.
I have to admit that, like, do you ever get this? Slightly off topic, but do you ever get this? So if I shop on Zara, which is where I buy most of my junk, it's like, it's almost monopoly money to me.
Yeah.
So to me, 30-40 pounds in Zara is, that's fine. 30-40 pounds somewhere else is like, let me sleep on it. It's weird. It's like,
it does depend on the place. And I mean, I feel like I could do a course on, like, the psychology of how people spend their money and all of that. I find it so interesting.
Do an episode on that.
but yeah, I definitely think that saving and spending time to really consider your purchases is really important, because I think that helps stop it feeling like monopoly money, especially these days where like you're not physically handing over that cash. You're not handing over a big wad of like drug dealer money. You're literally just like, like you're literally just giving someone a piece of plastic, or you're doing it online, and that just zing.
Yeah,
there's a responsibility there to kind of like take a bit of time. But I do think that, like, I think Cassie gave the advice in our recent episode of like, she'll do a spreadsheet. And I think actually someone replied to us on Instagram with a similar thing of, you assess what you want, or maybe you haven't decided what bag you want from Louis V, but like we've said, the ballpark range is this. So you start saving because you're like, I deserve a new treat. And you just basically work out what you're going to take out of your paycheck every month and do an Excel like that.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to do it. And also, again, like, maybe helps you remember that it is money, like £5 is still £5. Like, and if you're having to save £150 for 10 months for a Louis Vuitton bag, like, that's a lot of money, to save, but also to like part with for 10 months to buy something with.
I do want to throw a spanner in the works though, because this has been something that's like been an issue in recent months, but it's obviously been going on for a long time, and that's price rises. Because I think price rises can be such an influential factor when it comes to, do I wait to buy something and be responsible about it? Do I just buy it now because I know the price of it is gonna go up and I quote unquote am going to buy it anyway?
Yeah.
We don't know if that's the case.
That happened with my friend Isis, that she got in just before the Chanel price increase, and she like was really trying to, because I think they don't always tell you when they're going to do it. You roughly know when.
Okay.
But I think she didn't rush her purchase, but like that made her want to do it a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Because she knew it was going to go up by another couple of £100, and like, and that's a lot of money as well to then save again for.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I do think that that's a real skill almost these companies have, of maybe rushing that decision a little.
Yeah, it is. And I think it fuels the idea of like, not only do I need to buy this now, but this whole farce, which is I can sell this back at a profit, because in 5 years time,
don't kid yourself, friends.
Yeah, when like Chanel's selling the same thing for £1,000 more, I can sell mine for close to that amount, when there's so many other like reasons why that might not be the case, or can like stop you from selling it at a decent price or more than what you paid for it. But yeah, it's that sense of urgency. And yeah, price rises are a sneaky one. I've never really wanted to buy into something that was like that, or I've never noticed.
No, I haven't had an effect with anything like that. But one thing as well, that if you're more of a high street shopper and more of a luxury admirer, the option of something like a sample sale is definitely one for you.
Yeah.
It's less about getting that exact item, because there's no guarantee and all of that kind of a thing. But if it's like, you like the idea of owning something luxury, but you don't think you'd ever afford it or be willing to pay full price, there is that option. But then also, a lot of people have that dilemma of, you want more things because you think you're getting a good deal, like the psychology of that you actually get brought into things for a sample sale just because there's a good price. I
do have I have a Jimmy Choo bag. My mum and I, we went to Jimmy Choo sample sale. Now, never have I ever thought about buying something from Jimmy Choo, but don't get me wrong, I love this. It's like this big old like A4 slightly bigger pouch, grey leather, and it has these perforated stars on the front.
Amazing.
It's actually a really cool piece. It's good for like papers and things like that. I love it. I'm not selling it, but I bought in a sample sale. But at the same time, like I wasn't I bought it on like a casual Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
In my lunch break.
You weren't, determined to buy something.
And I ended up spending money on this thing. So yeah, you're right in that can entice you to, I mean, it's better than buying things full price, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it is a great way for people maybe to be introduced to stuff. And sample sales are very, very different from how they started. Like, it used to be quite literally a brand selling the samples of pieces that they made, and now it's almost like because of factory minimums, or maybe something hasn't sold as well, the buyers didn't quite get the numbers right, it's just surplus. So you can actually maybe get like last season's bags, last season's jumpers, whatever they're ready to wear is,
things
the
they've
shoes
used in like photo shoots, or they've gifted people for a period of time to do content with, and then they get it back. And so,
and actually I follow something where, like, I've never used it, but it's like a little Instagram page that helps you like shop sample sales. So they film the sample sale and they'll take pictures of stuff, and you could literally like DM them to say, I like that. Do they have size 5?
But you know what? In London, there's so many sample sales going on. There's websites that literally tell you, on this day there's.
But like, these people do it for you, because obviously, like, if you can't leave work or all of that stuff, these people do it for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think we should probably talk about like something that we've experienced from like working in fashion and our own personal experiences. And it's like, how have you gone about owning luxury pieces in the past?
So to be honest, like you said earlier, the only luxury pieces I own are from places that I have worked, because of the staff discount, and B, normally before an actual sample sale, they might have a staff one for first dibs, but also at any one point you could shop the warehouse basically content with your staff discount, and then sample sales even for the public. Obviously you're allowed to go in, and we would shop. They would open it an hour before and we would shop that. And so I've never sort of bought, and actually even then, like, I was spending a fair amount, not the full price ever, but like, so for example, if the bag would retail for $750, then the sample sale price would be like $150. So like, that's obviously a huge saving. But again, I did get myself into a point of being like, oh, so we'd never be spending this on the bag. But they're lovely bags. And also the problem is when you're like working on design, I'm sure it's the case even if you don't work on design, but like, you've helped with that process, or you've helped design that bag or whatever, and you want to own it, or like, you know, you've worked late nights doing like technical packs for it, or whatever it might be, that like you've got an attachment.
You see this stuff so much, even like, as you said, I never worked in design, but in merchandising,
I'm sure
you
it's
see
the same
stuff so much. You're like,
I deserve to own that now.
Why can't I have that as well?
And also it's something where you will never get those discounts again. And I definitely made the most of that when I worked for a knitwear company. And I'm a big fan of like nice knitwear. You can tell, like you really can tell.
You can.
And I still love those pieces that I got when I worked there. And I still like, they still look great. Like they're still, you have to take care of knitwear, but like, I'm really glad that I own them. And it's that kind of a thing of like that because of that, I think I have a reluctance to pay full price, which is a bit of a problem because obviously I don't work at every brand under the sun. And actually saying that, one of the last places I worked, the staff sample sales were pretty poor discounts. But that was also because the price of the items was so high that the staff discounts were still like several hundred, like you were still having to pay several £100s for an item, or like like upwards of £500 for a bag, and you're just like, No, that doesn't feel like a discount to me. I don't care if it retails for over £1,000. That doesn't feel like a discount.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that staff discounts and sample sales and stuff is just not, no, especially staff discounts. I don't hear very much about them ever when I see hauls,
Yeah.
when I see shopping sprees online. Or, I mean, people talk about buying vintage or maybe buying in the sale and stuff like that, or even going to outlet factory stores and things. But staff discounts give you the best discounts.
For sure.
Like, I, in the same way that you've experienced, I have most of my stuff is like secondhand, like bought on like eBay and things like that. Or it's because I worked for the brand and I got insane discounts at my last place of work. Like, for example, I do have some men's pieces ready to wear, and they're like jackets, and I have a raincoat, and I wear those. Like, I wear this raincoat every like autumn and whatnot. And I think it probably would have retailed, just to give context to people who've never worked in fashion, I think they retail at like 1,500 or something like that. It was really expensive. And I bought this coat so cheap, I couldn't even remember how much I paid for it. Like, I'm talking, I probably paid like £20 for it.
What?
I'm not kidding.
That's mental.
And it might have been just like a sample for wholesalers to come and see the new collection. So they were never planning to sell it.
Yeah.
It was pretty much like seen as, if they sell it to staff,
that's
it's
a
bonus.
Yeah.
But it's not calculated to ever make revenue for them. It's like dead stock in a sense. Or like bags. I literally have bags that sell for £500 and I paid like £15 for them, because it's literally like they're just sitting on stock and they're like, you might as well like give us £20 for it, because otherwise what are we going to do with this? Next season we're going to have a whole new selection of stuff that's going to come through production as samples, and we're just going to be sitting on this for another 2 years. So staff sales, the sample sales were actually borderline ridiculous.
And actually, they've already spent the money to make it.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember when I was interning, if I worked weekends, because they weren't paying me on them and they weren't going to pay me for the weekend, they would just ask me to go into the room where we had like surplus stock and I could pick like an item of clothing if I want, like, or pick something. There weren't the leather bags like there, but like I could pick something basically to take home. And so like that was a nice incentive. And then I also remember, so again in fashion, like maybe this trench coat actually never made it that you're talking about, your raincoat. So like it's a totally not important piece.
It never made it to the final collection.
Yeah. And actually I then was just gifted, I think I was gifted 2 bags. One like was half exotic, but I'd worked on the print of it and like the design sort of technicalities, but the creative director was just like, I just don't like it. And I was like, oh really? Like, do you not want it in the collection? She was like, oh, if you love it, you can have it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's stuff that has not actually been put through quality control. So they can't sell it to public because it's not a true representation of the quality, the stitching.
Well, and also I think it was more like they don't want to seem to be selling it because she doesn't want that associated with like,
100%
with her designs and stuff like that. And it's so that's kind of, I think that's spoilt me. And actually I remember being given a pair of shoes from my last place just because they were in the store cupboard, and my boss just went to me, what size shoe are you? And I was like, a 5. She was like, here, take these home. And I was just like, what?
And we also have to remember, like, when you work in fashion, you might be like allowed to choose a couple pieces every quarter because it's part of your uniform allowance. And so I remember we would get discounts on when I worked in lingerie, we would get discounts on those things, or we would have staff incentives. Like if you sell the most, then you get to take home this item. And so it became like part of working there. You had to be a representative of the brand in itself. And that's a massive way why there's a lot of people with designer pieces. They work for these conglomerates. So for example, you work
even in the shop, like, well, even more so, to be honest, because they have to be seen repping in the shop than just in the headquarters or in the main office. Like, definitely. And actually, a few places that I've worked, people have it in their contract essentially that they're allowed to spend a certain amount on like the lookbook. Basically they can pick up to a certain amount, and then they can pay their own money, obviously, but they're basically essentially gifted as part of their bonus or as part of their salary a certain amount.
Yeah, so the moral of the story, guys, also is if you don't work in luxury fashion but you know someone who does, ask them for their staff discount,
or think what you can kind of do for them, type of a thing. So like my sister-in-law works in makeup, and so she has sort of she has loads of discounts when it comes to beauty products, and so I used to obviously help her get her bags, but like she also uses that for other like connections. So there was definitely a point, I know that she's just had like All Saints, like Liberty, all these different places that she could basically like tap into, but like, I'll get you that foundation you love from like Space NK for less, but like if you can get me that like All Saints leather jacket for less. And like, oh boy, that was
the beauty of working in a department store,
for sure. So like definitely try and do that. And also like unless a staff member has a limit, which I've never had anywhere I've worked.
If you work in store, you tend to have a limit because you don't
try to use and abuse it.
Yeah, they try to cap employees from buying something but selling it on with a markup, and then just churning that out. But I mean, if they're like your friend, I mean, you got to do what you can to make those savings. But yeah, it's insane. I think that it's important to be like transparent about, if you see me down the street in Gucci, don't ask me how I paid for it, okay?
And actually I think we have to remember that there's a lot that goes on that I don't know if people would always be that like open and honest with, like I think there's a lot of show. I think especially the people we look at on Instagram, like I don't think that Molly May's in any collaboration with like Louis Vuitton or whoever she's buying into the most. But also like there will be times where she's being gifted things, or like whether it's that or other stuff, or like just remember she's like earning top dollar. I think it's, you don't want to be keeping up with the Joneses. Even though that's something really difficult, you've got to remember, you've got to have that little self-reflection, I think, of why do I want to own it? Because if it is to keep up with the Joneses or the Kardashians or Queen Liz, like you've got to check yourself, because actually you shouldn't have to keep up even with your peer group, even if your peer group are all affording it. But like essentially, if you're not that bothered about owning it, then you shouldn't own it just to keep up or just for appearances. Because you know what, in that situation, go get yourself a fake from Dave down the road,
Stop promoting fakes.
But like, or go get a really great Zara copy, like, and not that I agree that Zara should copy things either, but like
something that's similar but not like a blatant like Chanel logo.
Don't go like spending or saving all your hard-earned pennies for something just to like keep up with your friends, because I'm telling you, if they're your good friends, I couldn't care less what bag you have, Miranda.
Thanks. It makes me feel better.
You're my pal. That's the end.
Oh, thanks. I think also is really a good way to like be able to upgrade what you have in your wardrobe is selling off stuff that you no longer use. I do a lot of that. I am banging to eBay, and I
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, like you get more space in your wardrobe, you earn extra money.
And you can justify it then a little bit more.
Yeah. So have you, like, what's your relationship with eBay and selling online?
I definitely used to do it a lot. I did it before I went traveling for a bit. And actually, I think in my parents' house, there's like bags of clothes that I was like, I'll sell those on eBay. And I haven't yet. And actually, I keep meaning to like pick them up. Because right now we've got a bit more downtime, just to stick all of that on eBay. If it doesn't sell, or Depop, if it doesn't sell within X amount of time, I make my peace with it and it goes to a charity shop. But like, I'm a big fan of that. I get in real holes where I really shop a lot on eBay because I'm like, why would I ever buy something firsthand again? Like, there's that real moment because I don't care about seasons.
But you know what? When you do buy stuff firsthand, this is really like me thinking about this bag that I want to get. When you do buy something firsthand, it's glossy, isn't it?
Oh,
it's
and I actually agree that especially if you're going to save up and that's like a real big purchase, you deserve that like in-store experience. Like, I think you do deserve that. But like for a Zara number, like there were loads of stuff that I loved of theirs last summer. And I'm like, so if I can buy that this year on eBay for like a couple of quid rather than it being like the 40 quid or whatever it was like originally, I don't care that it was from last season because like even if I had bought it last season, I'd be wearing it this season as well. So that's where I think eBay is great. And also, yeah, you can make a bit of money on it and all of that stuff. I'd say no returns, guys. If you're going to sell on eBay, don't let people return that stuff. People love to complain.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
But I've also I have sold some bags on eBay too, bags that I got in sample sales and all of that stuff. And then actually when I was feeling really gluttonous about how many bags I had, and if I had two of the same style, I tried to give myself sort of a hard look of like, do you actually wear this? Will you wear it? Did you own it just because you could get it for a good price? Get rid of it. Some I regret, but I'm also very bad at letting things go. So,
are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
like there are still some clothes that I've sold on eBay where, like, for a while I was like, oh, that would have been great. Or
you can't make hasty decisions when you decide to sell something.
Well, I think more I'm an overthinker, so I always revisit things, which is unfortunate. But have you found like that you've enjoyed eBay, and do you think that's kind of a way that you're almost justifying your saving?
Yeah, 100%. I've always been an eBayer. Like when I've gotten broke, like full transparency, you know, when you're say in between jobs, or your current job isn't, you know, it's not bringing home enough bacon or whatever, or simply when I feel like I do have too much stuff or stuff that I just am not, it doesn't spark joy, Marie Kondo stuff. I do sell stuff and I'm fairly consistent with selling on eBay, if I'm honest. I kind of do enjoy it a little bit. It's hard work, but there's
a real thrill if people buy things. And also, you know, the things you don't always think are even going to be worth a whole lot.
Oh, no.
If that gets into a bidding war, just like someone's really desperate for it, it's fantastic.
I will say that, in my experience, the vast majority of stuff that I've sold has not been through bids, it's been through offers. People just approach you and they're like, are you willing to accept this? Are you? And also a tip when you're selling on eBay is always start your starting bid as what you're willing to accept. Like if one person bids that, you're happy to part with your item for that amount of money. But yeah, I do. And I feel like I am at a stage where I'm like, I need to clear out, having worked for a handbag company, I need to clear out some of that stuff. It's in order to make way for something new. Mr. Big Things, I have way too many bags, but you know, the like caveat of it.
But there's different occasions and uses.
Yeah, and I actually have gone through them with him to get his opinions on what I should sell and stuff. But if I'm completely honest, because I've worked for like brands and I've got insane discounts. The stuff that I have sold has literally paid off for the rest of the stuff that I've kept. So I feel like I'm at, this is how I justify it to myself. I feel like I'm at like a net loss, a net loss or win. You know, it's just in the middle.
Yeah,
balanced itself
you
out.
balanced it out.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really good way to approaching buying luxury, because at the end of the day, if you're going to spend a lot more money on something, which, let's be honest, we know luxury fashion is taking us for a mug. The prices are very high.
Yeah.
But if there's something you want to buy, then I think the best thing you can do is like make sure it's something hopefully you're gonna love for a long time and you're gonna use it a lot. I think that's actually a really important thing to say, is that a lot of people will buy, like, let's go for a Chanel caviar leather handbag, and they don't ever want to use it, or they save it for best. And it's in pristine condition, but you also use it once a year, like, and that's then not really, like, price per wear isn't, like, not really good enough, but also, like, just owning it shouldn't be enough. You should enjoy it, and you need to use it. Really, this is kind of like the point that we were discussing last week with the unpopular fashion opinions, and I realized I didn't explain myself very well in that when people buy a lot of classics because they believe that is what they should be buying into in order to get the most amount out of their luxury purchase. I feel like if you're going to spend that kind of money, you need to wear the hell out of something. That's what I think. If paying for luxury is irresponsible, at least use it to death. Yeah,
for sure. I like when my bags have a bit of wear on. Okay, sometimes I wish they didn't have that little scratch or whatever, but I think, you know what, I also wear it, and I'm not too careful about my bags. I just think, you know what, they're here to be used. I'll do my best. I'm not going to throw it on the floor and, like, you know, kick it. But I also just think, like, these things are worth having. And also because a lot of them I haven't paid full price for, I think that I'm not sat there being like, that's just taken £50 off of the bag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true, actually.
But also, I just think you have to be like that. Even if I think you have to be prepared to use it. You've got to, like, I was saying this when I was been painting and decorating this week. And cracks form because my brother's just had an extension and the house has to settle. So over the next few years, cracks will show, and then, like, you'll get a decorator in and you just fill them. But, like, I was trying to tell my sister-in-law, like, nothing stays pristine for forever. Like, you know, you can't buy a car and not scratch it ever. You can't buy a bag and expect to never, like, have a pen leak or your lipstick get on it or whatever it might be. You have to be prepared when you part with that money for, like, some destruction. Don't be Kim Kardashian crying about her diamond earrings. Like, please, like, things are, like, you know, things are disposable.
They're just stuff, aren't they?
It's just stuff.
You know,
and it's not that deep.
And on that note, you got anything else to add in regards to saving for luxury fashion?
I just think be careful, guys, you know. But also, if that's what you want to spend your money on, there is no judgment here. If you looked through my bank statements, I'd probably be severely ashamed. So, you know, but I think just think about it, pause on it, maybe go with that if you can afford it 3 times over.
Intentional purchases and, like, intentional uses as well.
Yeah, and also, like, get it because you just love it, you know.
Ask for it as a gift. You know, like, let's be honest, like,
would Mr. Big buy you this bag? No chance.
No, because he's vegan, so he wouldn't buy me leather. But
you're plant-based.
But, you know, we've had this discussion that I'm not completely over leather yet because I feel like there's not really good alternatives yet. But
controversial.
Oh yeah, that's my controversial. We'll do an episode.
Oh, we actually want to do an episode of that.
But I have not ruled out leather bags, to be honest. There's ways to do leather bags and there's ways not to do leather bags, I think. But yeah, so he wouldn't buy it to me. What I could do.
But my point was more, that's a really extravagant gift.
Yeah, it is. But still, guys, there's nothing wrong with a gift card. There's nothing wrong with a gift card.
But yeah, and also you could just ask for money for your birthdays, occasions, for saving up. You know, people can do that for their wedding presents, that they ask you for money for their honeymoon.
Stop. A luxury registry.
Oh my God. That is exactly what I'm going to do.
This is our $1 million idea.
Do you then have to share that with your husband? That's for another day, maybe. But yeah, I think my wedding should come with me getting my first Chanel, maybe. Ooh.
I think that yeah, or a push present, or like an engagement present, or something. I'm here for it.
For sure.
If he wants to propose with a ring, I'd be like, you know what Scarlett really wants?
She wants
double
a Chanel.
Classic flat.
Yeah.
She'll say yes.
Oh, you know what? I probably would prefer that to a diamond, you know?
Oh, we could talk about diamonds and how they're hugely overinflated in price. But
and also, I just don't think we know enough about diamonds to know what's nice. You know? We have to send it off to an expert to tell us how nice our ring is.
I mean, you could also buy one of those like beep, 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 beep. those little, I don't know, contraptions.
Yeah.
See if your jewelry's real. We digress, though.
We digress. Yeah. We digress. But yeah, thanks for sending in your ways that you save money. That was really helpful for us, and we like interacting with you guys, and we hope that continues.
Mm-hmm. So also, what's our question that we're posing to our listeners this week? Scarlett.
Maybe what are you saving up for?
That's a good one, actually.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to
start your registry.
Yeah.
Thanks again, guys, for listening to another episode of Style Over Substance. And